Hi guys, welcome back to the Wildflower and Twine Kitchen, where I take you step by step as I bake the most delicious sourdough goodies. Today I'm going to be restocking one of our staples, a ciabatta inspired roll. So come on, let's get our bread hands to work. First you're going to want to grab your bowl and place it on the scales, then tare it to 0. Then we're going to weigh out the water, active starter and some good quality olive oil all in that bowl and mix it until it's really well combined. I had a bit of a head cold last week and left my starter sitting on the bench unfed for 2 days, so now it's having a little bit of a sulk. Normally she would have risen a lot more than this and started to fall back down already, but I can see that there's a lot of fermentation bubbles in there, and I thought this would be a really good opportunity to show you that not everything has to be perfect when it comes to sourdough. And if you are new to this, once you've baked a few loaves, you'll start to see little signs and you'll understand how things are supposed to look and feel. And you'll also know what you can get away with if things don't look perfect. So once all your wet ingredients are nicely combined, you can add in your flour and salt. Take your time to thoroughly mix the flour through, and don't get too worried if your mixture starts to feel too dry. Just keep going and it will all come together in the end. Grab your dough scraper and scrape down the edges of your bowl, then give your dough a gentle knead for about 20 or 30 seconds. This is not essential, I just like to do it to bring all the dough together in the center of the bowl. Cover your bowl and let it rest for about an hour. I like to record the time I started it and how many stretch and folds and coil folds I've done. This is where a glass lid comes in really handy because I can just use a whiteboard marker on there. Now we're going to start our stretch and folds. I like to lightly wet my hands and run my hands around the edges of the bowl just to pull the dough away. Simply scoop up the part of the dough that's furthest away from you, stretch it into the air and lay it down towards you. And repeat that another 3 times, turning the bowl 1/4 each time. Now we're going to move on to coil folds. Lightly wet both hands and lift the dough from the center and gently stretch it up and then try and coil the front underneath. Once the front section is completely coiled underneath, do the same to the back section. Then you're going to rotate your bowl and repeat that process. Repeat that process another 3 times with an hour's rest between. All up, you're going to have done 2 sets of stretch and folds and 4 sets of coil folds. Each time you work your dough, you'll feel changes in its volume and texture. As time goes on, your dough will feel more fluffy and airy and have a nice jiggle to it. In a normal situation, after this last coil fold, you'll cover your dough and pop it in the fridge. But remember how at the beginning I said that my starter was being a little bit sooky? Well, it hasn't actually fermented the dough properly in time, so I'm going to leave it covered on the bench for another hour and then see what it looks like. And after an extra hour of bulk fermentation, it's still not at 100%, but it is fine enough to put in the fridge now. As you can see that it's pulling away from the edges nice and clean, and there is a few fermentation bubbles coming up the side. It's the next day and we're ready to bake, and I ended up letting my dough rest in the fridge for a few hours longer. Here I'm just getting some garlic oil ready to brush my bread with before baking. This is my favourite part. Turn out your dough onto a lightly oiled bench. Just be gentle, let it take its time, and it should come out nice and clean. Take your dough or pastry cutter and cut into 8 pieces. There's no need to rest or stretch out the dough at all in this step. The dough shouldn't stick to your cutter if you make swift, intentional cuts, but if it does for any reason, just lightly grease your cutter with some oil from the board. Transfer your dough portions onto some baking paper. You can do this individually or as a whole. I choose to do it individually because I put my dough in on a pizza stone and I can only fit a couple in at a time. Top your rolls with anything your heart desires. My go-to is a little bit of ground rosemary, some sesame seeds and some nigella seeds. Now you can generously brush all of your rolls with that garlic oil that we made earlier. Oil your fingertips and start pressing out all of your rolls. Don't be afraid to be a bit firm with them too. They're not going to come out as flat as you think. And finally, I like to give all my rolls a nice sprinkling of flaky sea salt. Look at all those perfect golden rolls. This is my #1 way to bake sourdough. The rolls are substantial enough that you could make a beautiful big crumb chicken burger. But also they're so light and airy that they're the perfect thin and crispy piece of toast for your fried egg in the morning. And after 2 more feeds, my starter is back to normal. So don't worry too much if yours doesn't behave exactly the same every time. The fact that I left my starter unfed on the bench for more than 48 hours and it bounced back within a few feeds shows how resilient your starter can be. Alright, I think we've waited long enough now. Let's taste this ciabatta. I really do think that more people should be talking about this kind of recipe for beginners, because as you know, I had troubles from the beginning, and look how perfect these rolls turned out. I think you should definitely give these a go, and if you have any other questions about the process, just leave me a comment. Thanks for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. Next up on my beginner-friendly sourdough series is going to be this gorgeous sandwich loaf. So don't forget to subscribe and maybe even hit the bell if you don't want to miss this one. Have a wonderful day, guys. We'll see you again soon.